Good morning. Welcome to our solo walk. Coffee's on. As I've said many times, in that I don't schedule my videos or my talks with you guys, and I just do them when I feel so led to. And it's usually, every 3 or 4 days or whatever. But we did one yesterday, and the one today, I guess, needs to be said for one reason or another, because it wouldn't even allow me to have my morning siesta that I usually have every morning, and that's part of getting healthy and being healthy is getting the proper rest. And we're usually early to bed and early up, and after been up 6 hours or so, me and my solo will go have a lay down for half, 3/4 of an hour. But this morning I laid down, and this wouldn't leave me alone. So here we are. With the rhetoric and bullshit that's being put out over the last week, I guess, and that even more so, but especially over the last week with the wars, the goings on in Ukraine, Europe, calling for more war, the goings on in the Middle East, the carrying on in all the Western governments, the riots, protests, whatever you want to call them, in different countries, protests in England and around, and from what I can see in Nepal, it's more riots and that, and from the assassination of young Charlie Kirk in the U.S., and the rhetoric that's going around from both sides on that too. It's both sides on all of it, to tell you the truth. Well, there's more than two sides to anything. There's 3 sides to most stories. Eh? Theirs, mine, and the actual story, the truth. But anyway, with all that's going on, and I think it's really important at this time for you to use discernment and to really pause before you react. And I think that the reaction is what the system, the program is pushing for. And the push for more division, more separation, to push for people to come against each other more. And I think it's really time that we push back against that program and come together. But what's really been going through my mind since yesterday, even before yesterday's video, but since yesterday's video and through the night, and when I went and laid down for my siesta, was I think it's in the 1960s song, and I think it has words for today. You could, it'd be just my interpretation of it, but you could almost call it a prophetic song. And that is, I think, a lot of the old songs, and some of the newer stuff, but we're actually had a little bit of a prophetic leaning on them if we look at them But this one was Simon and Garfunkel, The Sound of Silence. And it's a good example of how you can hear something for decades and it doesn't speak to you. You don't hear it. We're deaf to what it says until we're open-minded enough, I guess, to hear it, or we're ready to hear it, or we realize that there's something in those words, not specifically this song, but anything. Many times we try to explain to family or friends or acquaintances or even people even talking like this to you on the stupid YouTube, and that we try to share our hearts, and people don't hear. Is it that they're not ready to hear, that they don't want to hear, or that they're just deaf to it because of the programming, and until they realize that there's something more, they don't even hear or see. We've all been given eyes to see and ears to hear, but do we use them? Until something stirs within for us to say, hey, this isn't right. Is there something more? Is there something I've been missing or whatever? But anyway, this song, Sound of Silence, like I said, I've heard it for 40, 50, 60 years, whatever it is. I've listened to it and it never really spoke anything to me until I heard it 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe, sang by Disturbed. And as far as I'm not no aficionado of music or song, but I've heard other versions of it, and I don't think anybody does a better rendition of this song than that group. But there's a few, I won't go through the whole thing, but there's a few verses in it that I think apply right now, and maybe we'd be good to pay a little bit of attention to what it says. And as I read, I wrote them down so I didn't get the words wrong. But as I read them, I'll maybe tell you what it says to me and see whether it speaks to you in that way at all, maybe. But anyway, it says, and in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, and people hearing without listening. People writing songs that voices never shared, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. And that's, we see a lot now. People all over the place, thousands, millions, but all talking without speaking. You see that on the mainstream media, you see that on all this social media, you see that with people we talk to and associate with. People are talking for the sake of talking, but no one's speaking. And they're talking, not no one's speaking, but few are speaking. Most are just talking, and most are just regurgitating what they've been told, what they've been programmed, with nothing original in them, and all talking the points of the ideology they're following, of the program that's running their unconscious minds. And maybe look, listen for the ones that are speaking. People hearing without listening. Again, it's from the talking heads from government, the talking heads from media, from social media. People hearing what they say and just blindly accepting that without any actual listening. And I think most of the listening should come from within. Be aware of what's going on, but don't absorb it. Listen with the ears of your spirit, with your heart. Listen from love. So many are hearing what's said, but it's mostly being said out of fear, out of hate, out of distrust. But listen. There's lots of noise. But listen for the message that's coming to you from Spirit. People writing songs of voices never shared because no one dared disturb the sound of silence. There's lots of genuine, authentic, caring, loving people that are speaking the songs, I guess, that they've been written in their hearts, been written in their spirits. But there's so many that don't dare share that, don't dare stand up, be courageous enough to speak what they feel out of love, not out of hate, and not yelling, just sharing, having a discussion, a debate, not expecting people to agree, but they won't speak because they're been programmed, trained to be silent. They don't want to disturb that sound of silence. But the next verse, it says, "Fools," said I, "you do not know that silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words and I might teach you. Take my arms and I might reach you. But my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence." But the silence does grow. As we sit back and cross our arms and say, oh, it's not just awful, but not speak up against it. Not stand on our morals and our principles and our values. We start to lose those morals, principles, values. Hearts start to be hardened. Thoughts continue to be manipulated because that silence allows the cancer to grow, the hate. When you're not functioning, speaking, singing that song of love, that silence, just like a cancer grows. Then they take my arms that I might reach you, but my words, and hear my words that I might teach you. You're only going to hear what you're willing to hear. And you're only going to embrace what you're willing to embrace. And if you come at things with a closed mind, closed heart, from the programming, from the teachings, it doesn't matter who's reaching out to you. It doesn't matter who's speaking to you. Because those words, like it says, like silent raindrops that fell, they echo in the wells of silence. If you're not willing to hear, if you're not at least willing to entertain the thought that you may have been programmed, taught some falsehoods, you'll never hear, and those words will just fall in the well. And then the next one is, and the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning in the walls, words that it was forming. And the sign said, the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and the tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence. And you see that, people bowing and basically praying to the ideology, the political pressures, the political systems, the programs that have been instilled within each one of us through millennia of manipulation, and that they're praying to those gods that they've made, that they're bowing to that system. And their signs are flashing out the warnings. And the signs are telling you that the words of the prophets are written on subway walls and tenement halls. The warnings aren't coming from these saviors that you're looking at. These words aren't the words aren't of the prophets aren't coming from political leaders, from religious leaders. They're not coming from news anchors. They're not coming from social media moguls, with the big followings and stuff. The words aren't coming from there. The words are coming, like it says, are written on the subway walls and the tenement halls. They're coming from the places that no one expects. The words of the prophets are coming from the places of just the ordinary, the places of people that have hearts that are connected to spirit, with eyes to see and ears to hear, that are willing to not stay silent, that are willing to reach out in love to the ones that slander them, discredit them, call them names. And just whisper within the sound of silence. You know, there's a lot of songs, a lot of lyrics, a lot of books that will speak to you. And maybe it might not be the way that the writer meant it to be, and maybe it is. Maybe I'm interpreting this all wrong, and maybe it don't make any difference to you. I don't know. All I know is this was on my heart to share with you, on my heart to speak with you about. And like I said, as you hear so much noise that's going on, be aware, of course, but don't absorb it. Be the one that is a tenement hall or a subway wall. So those words will come out, the words of warning, the words of love, the words of unity, peace, yeah, be the one. Don't let it fall into the wells of silence. Remember, silence, like a cancer, will grow. And it has been growing. And it's time for true hearts, true spirits, courageous lions to stand and break the silence and be the sign on the tenement hall, subway walls. Anyway, yeah, we'll leave her there. Reach out, give your loved ones a hug. Tell them they're loved. Look in the mirror. Tell yourself, you got this. You are more than enough. You are a willing vessel. You are love, and you are loved. Be blessed. We'll come at you again. Bye-bye.